Hey everyone, my name is Holly Grand and I am going to talk with you guys a little bit today about how scientists determine what different animals eat. We are going to be recording some data today, so if you have access to our bite-sized data sheet, you'll want to have a copy of that handy. If you don't worry about it. You can use a blank sheet of paper or just follow along. So here at the Coastal Fisheries Division, we work with a lot of marine plants and animals, or things that live in or near the saltwater. And our job is to make sure that we are managing these coastal resources properly so that we don't exploit or cause damage to the environment. This includes things like making sure we have healthy fish populations. But how do we know that we have a healthy fish population? And there's a few ways that we can figure that out. One of the things that we have to understand in order to make sure we know whether or not a certain population is healthy is we have to understand what the marine food web looks like. We want to know how all of the different plants and animals that are in the environment are interacting with each other and which animal might be eating what animal or plant. So we need to understand who eats who. But how do we figure that out? And there's a few ways that we can do that. One of the ways that we can make predictions about what an animal eats is by looking at their tooth shape. So if we take a look here at my dolphin skull, we know that dolphins are carnivores or meat eaters. They eat a lot of fish. And if we take a closer look at its teeth, you'll notice that they have a lot of sharp and pointy teeth. So we know that carnivores typically have sharp, pointy teeth to help them catch and hold on to their prey. The next skull that I have is this one here. This is from an animal called a manatee. And if we take a look at the manatees' teeth, you'll notice that they have a lot of flat teeth that look almost like our molars or even cow's teeth. Manatees are herbivores. They eat only seagrass. So they have these flat teeth to help them chew through their plants. So we can make predictions about what an animal eats based on its tooth shape. But is that always the case? And that's what we're here to test today. Today we're going to be taking a look at two different fish species. We're going to make predictions about what they eat based on their tooth shape. And then we are going to make a hypothesis and then test our hypothesis to see if we're right. Let's take a look at our two fish. So the first fish I want to talk about today is called an alligator gar. Gar are very common in freshwater, especially in the rivers and lakes of Texas. However, they can sometimes be found in the estuaries, which is where the saltwater and the freshwater meet. So we'll sometimes see them in our marine environments as well. They can be massive fish. They can get to be as long as 10 feet, which is just about the length of a car. The other fish that I want to talk about today is called a black drum. These fish are strictly saltwater fish. They are very common in both shallow and deep water in Texas bays, but also out in the Gulf of Mexico. These fish get to be pretty big too. Adult drum can be anywhere from 30 to 40 pounds, which is a pretty big fish. Not quite as big as our gar, but still big for a fish. So now that we know a little bit about our fish, I want to show you their teeth. So let's start out with that alligator gar. So if we're taking a look at this gar skull here, this gar has a ton of sharp teeth. You may be able to see that he actually has a few rows of teeth in his mouth too. So if you had to make a prediction, do you think that this alligator gar is a carnivore or an herbivore? And if I had to make a prediction based on what we just talked about with the dolphin, I would guess that this alligator gar is a carnivore. The next fish that we're going to talk about is the black drum. These right here are the black drum's teeth. Just showing you the teeth I don't think is going to give you the full picture of what is actually going on in the fish's mouth. So you should be seeing on the video right now a picture of where these teeth are located in the drum's mouth. Drum have what are called pharyngeal teeth, which pretty much just means they have teeth in their throat. What's kind of cool is that black drum aren't the only fish that have pharyngeal teeth. There's a ton of other fish that have the same sort of teeth, including goldfish. So if we take a look at these teeth, do you think black drum are herbivores or carnivores? If I had to make a prediction based on what we just talked about, where herbivores have flat teeth, and I'm seeing a lot of flat teeth here, I would predict that black drum are herbivores. So what do you think? Do you guys agree with me? We made our predictions and I transformed these predictions into hypotheses. Basically what they are is if fish like an alligator gar has a lot of sharp and pointy teeth, then they are carnivores. And if fish like black drum have a lot of flat teeth, then they are herbivores. And those are the two hypotheses that we're going to be testing today. But how are we testing them? And that's a great question. So one of the ways that we can figure out what fish are eating is by dissecting them and taking a look at their stomach contents. That'll give us a really good idea of what these different critters have been eating. So what we're going to do is we are going to fill out our data sheet and then get into looking at some stomach contents. So if we take a look at our data sheet here, we have a few fields up at the top that we're going to have to fill out. Some of the things that we're going to record include our name, so that way if there are questions about anything that's recorded, whoever's looking at it will know who to contact. The other thing that you want to include is the date. The date is going to be incredibly important because maybe a certain fish eats a certain type of animal or plant only at a certain time of year. By recording the date, we know that this particular fish has a seasonal preference for food. Maybe in the winter it eats one thing and in the fall it eats a different thing. The other thing we're going to collect is our time. We are going to also include the location. I already recorded that for you. We are in Texas, and the reason why this is important is because fish of the same species may have different diets based on where they are geographically. So let's say our black drum in Texas may eat one thing, while black drum somewhere along the East Coast eats something completely different. And then the last thing that we want to do is make sure that we identify whether or not we are working with a black drum or an alligator gar. The first stomach we're going to look at here today is from the alligator gar. So go ahead and highlight or circle alligator gar. So this is the table we're going to be using to record our data. I included every possible type of animal that these two fish may encounter in their environments and things that they may eat. That doesn't mean we'll see everything, but I wanted us to be prepared. All right, guys, I think we filled out everything in our data sheet. Let's get into working with those stomachs. All right, guys, so my sleeves are rolled up and I'm ready to dig in and see what kind of animals or plants this alligator gar has been eating. So it looks like there's a lot of fun stuff up top here. So we'll go ahead and dig right in. It looks like the first thing that we're pulling out of here today is a fish. Pull out. The next critter that we've got here is another fish. It looks like we have a hungry gar. We have another fish. There is another fish, guys. Can you believe it? We've got something else. It is another fish. See here? There we go. So it looks like this gar is also eating at least one crab. Another fish. All right, I think we're coming up close to the end of our data collection here. There is another fish. I feel a few more things in here. One or two maybe. Let's see. There is another crab. I think I see at least one more thing. Oh man, this stomach is so slimy. There is another crab. I'm not seeing... Oh, just kidding. This one almost got away from us. Another crab. All right, guys, so it looks like we have 7 fish and 4 crabs that we pulled out of this fish's stomach. So your data sheet should have that same information on it. All right, so we just took a look at our alligator gar stomach, and it's time now to move over to our black drum. So we're gonna fill out the same exact data sheet. So we wanna include our name up at the top. The next thing that we'll have is our date, and then the time, followed by location, which I've already filled out for you. And then because we're working with a black drum this time, you'll want to make sure that black drum is either highlighted or circled somehow. All right, everyone, so now it is time to get into our black drum stomach. My sleeves again are rolled up and I'm ready to get into it. So let's see, it looks like we've got a few things up at the surface here, so I'll grab some of the easier ones first. And this is really cool, guys. So this is some algae. And algae is a type of plant that lives in the ocean. So we are going to go ahead and put a tally in the plant material column. And it looks like we have a fish. So black drum apparently also eat fish. There's a crab. That's a shrimp. And look at this. So this is a snail. Its scientific name is called a gastropod. Look at that. We've got another snail. Oh man, this is getting really slimy. There's another shrimp. This one looks like it'll be easy to get out. Oh man, guys. Oh. More plants, more algae. There's another crab. Oh. There we go. We've got a fish. Let's see what else we have out of this hungry drum. Another snail. I see a few more things left in here. We'll see what else we can find. This is really cool. So this is called a bivalve. Bivalves are shellfish that have two halves to their shell that are held together in the middle by a hinge. So in this animal, the hinge would be right here. These are things like our scallops, oysters, mussels, and like this one, clams. More algae. And we've got another crab. We've got another snail. And it looks like we've got another clam or another bivalve. Well, thank you guys for helping me record this data. Let's get back into the lab and talk about what this means for our hypotheses. All right, guys, so what we have to do now is we have to figure out whether or not our hypotheses were correct. So what do you think? Are gar carnivores? Yeah, they are. Alligator gar are carnivores. Really all we saw in its stomach were different types of animals, different crabs and fish. But what about drum? Are drum herbivores? No, they're not. Our hypothesis here was not correct. Drum are actually omnivores. So I gave you maybe a little bit of a trick question here, but drum will actually use their teeth to crush their food. So they have those plates on the top and the bottom, and when they eat something, they'll crush the different animals. You may have noticed that we saw a lot of animals that have hard shells, right? Things like our snails, our clams, even the crabs and shrimp, they all can have hard shells. And if you were to think about it, if you wanted to eat a crab, would you just throw a crab in your mouth? Probably not. You'd probably have to break the shell open before you could eat it, right? And that's essentially what the black drum is doing with its teeth. So our hypothesis about gar was correct, and our hypothesis about drum was not correct. So one thing that I want to point out here, guys, is that although our hypothesis about drum was not correct, that's not a bad thing at all. That's actually still very good, because at the end of the day, we still have more information now than we did going into this a little bit earlier. So with that, I think I've talked about everything that I need to talk about today. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun doing this little study with me here today. So thank you guys so much for coming and for listening for a little bit. I appreciate it a ton, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Bye.